right, the first thing you have to either accept or agree on is this principle, that if I tell you a piece of information, even if I say, David, I'm going to tell you something, but I don't want you to worry about it for another week, right? It's actually very unfair of me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put something in your brain, and I know you're not going to be able to let it go easily, right? It's going to stay in your brain. You're going to solve that problem 3 times before next week when you actually get to solve it, right? Because your brain's going to chew on it.
You probably won't know this, but when I was a kid, there used to be this cartoon called The Oddball Couple, and it had, I think one of the characters was called Fleabag, and the other one was called Spiffy. Do you remember that?
It does ring a bell. That does ring a bell. I'm not sure where you're going with it, but it rings a bell.
I think Fleabag was a dog and Spiffy was a cat, and they lived in a house together. But Spiffy was like really, really tidy and organised, and Fleabag was really messy. And they had a car as well. So one side of the car was rusty, and the other car was shiny, and everything they did. So
that sounds like my car when I'm driving, and on my side it's totally clean, and in the passenger side I look down and there's all sorts of empty water bottles, like food and all sorts of crap.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of. So I'm not saying that we are exactly an oddball couple, but traditionally I'm more of the messy one. And obviously we're not a couple in that sense as well, just to make that clear.
My partner, David.
Yeah. But, obviously we've known each other a long time, worked together a long while. And I've always been quite impressed with kind of how organised you are. And I've always kind of slightly wished that I could be as organised as that. But also knowing myself personally, I am a bit messy. And I kind of like to sort of, I guess that's the way I organise myself a little bit. I just have things that I know that I've got to do. For example, the other day you said, "Oh, can you get back to Kim about something?" I know with that would be every day. That would be popping up on somewhere, and you'd be going shit. With me, it's just in my head, and it bubbles up when I know that I've got. So I suppose what we wanted to talk about today is really like, well, firstly, what I'm finding as well as we get bigger. For some reason, I don't know why, but I thought it would get easier, or I thought we'd have more time. But it feels like the need to be more disciplined with your time and organize yourself becomes even more important. So it's really, just kind of talking about some of those tactics, how we do it, how we manage how we manage our time. But I think given your kind of OCD-ness, like there's probably a lot that people can learn if they really wanted to get themselves more organized and that kind of thing. I mean, one of the key things, obviously, that you do is this inbox zero thing, which I've tried to do a couple of times. I just always fail. I'm like, I just fall off the wagon within a week, and it's it's kind of
so this is going to be a great podcast because it's all about how amazing I am. And before we begin, I'm going to really also try to do another thing in this episode, which is not make noises when you're saying stuff in agreement, such as or yeah, which I notice I've been doing quite a lot of in podcasts, and it makes the listening experience not very good. And it's this habit I have, which I think is an agreeableness, which I want to sort of show that I'm listening, but I'm too active in it. Yeah. And actually, when I've listened to other podcasts that I really like, you just give the space to the other person to talk and just shut the fuck up, basically. And I just noticed I've been doing that badly, especially when I'm interviewing people, because I think I'm a bit more nervous. So apologies to regular listeners, because I think that's been a bit bad.
I've honestly never noticed that, but yeah.
No, I listened to a couple over Christmas, and I actually had to turn one off. I was just annoying myself. So there's a case of me not being very good, but back to me being amazing. Now, I think one of the things here is there's a few things to say. One, I think anything where this kind of LinkedIn bragging of like, I rise at 5:30, yeah. I kiss my wife on the forehead.
Meditate for 20
minutes.
Meditate,
then I get the kids.
And then everyone
I hate
applauded.
that. I mean, I don't really have a morning routine like that. I'm actually trying to sort of create one. I sort of do have. I was teaching this morning. That gives me quite a good morning routine. I do quite enjoy that, but I can't teach at 7 a.m. every day. It's pretty brutal. But anyway, one thing I'm kind of wary of is I don't want this to come across as some sort of hubris or sanctimonious or any of those other words that basically mean he's a cock. But I am quite good at this. And the reason is I care about it a lot. And I think that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And I am actually reasonably OCD. And I think part of that is because when I struggle mentally, it's usually when I feel like I'm out of control. And so feeling like I have, even if it's just a somewhat fake control, if I feel like I have it, even if it isn't really real, because the world is really going to influence things more in certain occasions, such as investment or customers, things like that. There's only so much I can do to influence it, but I certainly can't control it. But to a degree, the things I can control, I try to control, because mentally that makes me happier. So that's the first thing. I actually would say that really the root of this is self-care, selfishness? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I remember when we used to work together and you used to come back from holiday.
Oh God.
And you'd be like it was in the days before, iPhones and things, but you would come back, the first day it's like, don't talk to me. I'm working through my emails. It's like, you were like, I just can't do anything else until I've.
Yeah. And I mean, and that is not good prioritization. I mean, one of the points you were saying was how to organize your time well. Well, actually that's really not it. But what I was doing was getting myself back to a place of mental calm so that I could then go and deal with the big stuff. So again, that's not a great lesson in how to organize your life, because that's just a personal flaw I have. What I tend to do now on holiday, and not everyone gets this, is I actually do prefer to maybe in the morning or in the evening just do a quick hour run through. Now, sometimes that slaps you back in the face, because you might catch something that's really disappointing, and then it will affect your mood. It's impossible for that. So you would argue that actually not knowing would have helped the holiday day go better. But what it does do is it reduces my anxiety, right? So at the root, it all comes from that. Anyway, there's some stuff just to say, look, I'm not, I do it for a personal reason. I don't expect the whole world to do it. But if people are interested in how you do things like this, here are some tips that kind of work. One of the other things that I also really influenced me a while back, kind of a bit obsessive about reading about what a CEO should do, because trying to figure it out, or just any leader. I don't think it's just CEO. I think it's just anyone in a leadership position, especially when your company's getting bigger like we are. And I can't remember who it was, but he was a really super experienced CEO. I think it was on Quora, actually. He wrote this big long post about how do you, and he wasn't he wasn't like an Elon, but he was prominent and damn good. And he's the sort of person you bring in to turn around a big corporate business.
Right. Okay.
And he just said, look, if you really boil it down, my job is to be responsible for everything and nothing. I am a signpost. I do not do and run my own projects, but I am a resource for the company and for everyone. So he inbox zero every day. He has thousands, and he must get a lot, right? He obviously had a PA as well, probably getting rid of spam and things like that. But anything that required his attention, he would inbox zero. And he said it was a personal responsibility that something should, because he doesn't have actual projects to do himself, he should never be a bottleneck. He should be a source of flow. Yeah. So, but likewise, that doesn't mean writing an essay of an email. That means email comes in, quick reply. Yes, please talk to my team members, X and Y. They will help you further on. Boom, done. Right, forward this. You may need to action this. Did you know about this? And he saw himself as like this kind of very fluid role. And I really connected with me, partly because of my personality too. And so I thought, actually, so I have guilt. If I'm holding up a team member, then I'm creating an unnecessary barrier in an otherwise already complicated world. So that helps my mentality of just thinking fast response. So when it comes to inbox, it broadly goes like this. And I'm trying to get towards, and I don't quite do this right, I'm trying to get towards only really hitting the inbox like once or twice a day or even 3 times a day in one big sweep. Right. So the first thing I do, let's say that there's 60 emails in there, right? Not unusual after about 4 hours of the day. Right. I know for a fact 60 emails, oh my God, but actually 30, 40 of them, I smash the delete button Like delete. And anything I can see that I can delete, even just from the subject line, I won't even read the email. If I just know it's crap, I just get rid of it. Right, that probably straight away, that is like literally a 1 or 2 minute task. Boom, done. Okay, anything which looks like big, skip over it. Don't even read it.
Right.
So for example, someone yesterday was going to join us. She gave me a bit of a weird email the other day going, "Oh, I need to talk to you tomorrow." I was like, "Oh yeah." And then sure enough, I said, "Look, before we talk, can you just tell me what it is?" And then she spilled the whole thing, like she'd been offered another job. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to be a big one. I knew it was also going to like be a real mind. And when I saw she'd replied, I didn't read it. I kept skipping through. The next thing, so once you've got rid of that, next thing you do, anything that you've then seen in the summaries of what you've just been through, that's like a 1 minute task. Oh, can you, like Luke, can you countersign this thing? Short task, right? Straight, do it. Just do it. That can take 5 to 10 minutes longer, and that will take you down. Then what you're going to end up with, typically, and this is a bad day, is maybe 2, 3, or 4 bigger things, like something you have to consider. Like, here's a customer, they've written the scope of a project, and you need to have a bit of a think about that. Here's someone who's joining. Oh no, not joining. You have to think how you're going to respond to all of that. But it's only 3 or 4 things, and that's then what I would then spend the next half hour or whatever on, and that will involve some considered response, delegation, maybe some chat with team, etc. Do that twice a day, and you're good. Now, the first thing is and I never let my inbox scroll beyond what I can view as much as possible, because and then the next thing I do,
I think I've got 16,000 emails.
I mean, that is just ridiculously stressful. I'm already feeling stressed. The next thing is I use folders extensively.
Yeah.
So I have like key folders of subject areas like HR, finance, investment, sales, pro services, etc. And then I have subfolders within it like partners, hardware partners, software partners. And when it's like something that I might want to read again in the future, I'll just file it straight away. So boom, 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 that's filed as well. I also use our CRM on top of my inbox. So if something is something that I need to respond to, but now is not the right time, I snooze it. And I snooze it like a week, 2 weeks, and then I get a reminder that came back. And so it go, look, I need to deal with that, but not today. I haven't got the headspace today. Oh, look, I'm working from home on Friday. I'll snooze it to Friday, and it'll go into my Friday list. Okay.
Right, okay.
So again, mentally, that's no longer sat in the frontal lobes, as it were, with that. So that really is my rules on inbox management. And yeah, it serves me well. I don't forget things or I forgot to do that. That just doesn't happen to me because my list is there. I take actions and I put them into to-do list, which I share across all my devices, and I break my to-do list down not as one list. I have ScreenCloud lists, personal lists, list for my like fitness training if I've got to do items there, like get cover, invoice that person, those kind of things. And then at different headspaces, I will go into different lists. I'm going to go, hey, I'm going to do a bit of personal admin now at lunchtime. Maybe like, oh, I need to go to the bank. I need to do this. All right, okay. And it's just about putting things in compartments so that your head doesn't hold it. And I think the thing which I'm really impressed you can even function is you're holding all of this information in your head, like in the front of your head. And that to me doesn't make any sense. You need to have a clear mind, not a busy mind.
You kind of, but I think probably I don't. I think part of the problem with me is I really resent email. I resent the interruption.
But no one's interrupting you.
Well,
if they phoned you and said,
what you're saying is like when it comes in that there's an expectation of a response.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, like you come in and you say, I'm going to look at it 3 times a day, and if it requires a response, I don't want to hold it up. I'm going to fire it straight off, which is admirable.
Well, yeah, so maybe I would sort of de-escalate it slightly. I don't think anyone sends an email expecting immediate response. If they do, they're a bit of a dick, right? I mean, if you want an immediate response, Slack someone or text them or phone them.
Point. What do you think is a reasonable response? Let's say from...
It depends from
an
who it's from.
An employee or a customer?
Same day.
Same day.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're seeing it at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., then in which case next morning. Absolutely, same day. Yeah. I mean, these are the people we serve. I consider myself as, I serve my team. I serve my customers it's my job is to serve them as best I can. If it's a cold email or something like that, I'm like, that doesn't count. Oh, another tip that I have. So I get a lot of the same type of email. For example, right now I'm getting, and I think you are as well, getting loads of investor outreach. Kind of like, hey, let's have a catch up and a coffee, and all
a
that.
lot of them are kind of like, we're a startup accelerator and things like that. Okay, you've done your homework. I'm getting quite a few of those.
Startup accelerator.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just ignore that. I'm getting quite a lot about kind of like Series B, and a lot of them are maybe more on the private equity side and stuff. They're just analysts and things like that. I have a template in our CRM, which literally I just go boom, 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 done.
Oh yes, so actually, that's a good point. So do you use our CRM as your email client, basically?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So and so all of your folders are on there as well, are they? Is that?
No, but it can work together. So the folders I do have in my email client, that's more, I kind of see that as more as reference material, whereas the CRM I see more of like things of actions and things I need to do.
But like in the morning when you kind of fire up everything and go, right, this is my first email sweep of the day, do you open the CRM or do you open your Gmail? Or
no, I go through the Gmail first because that's the easy sweep. And also I think it's a bit like if you were doing a workout, you start with a warm up. You don't no one goes straight into the high intensity in the first minute. You're going to injure yourself and knacker yourself. So go with what's easy, which is sweeping out the crap, right? Just quick sweep, get rid of all of the rubbish before we hit the polish. And it gets you into the flow. It gets you into a bit of a zone. And then you it's all about getting yourself into a good work state and holding that state for what you're then looking to do. It's about building focus, but focus doesn't snap like that. You have to build up to it. So you may as well do some simple tasks and just kind of like get the muscles working and stuff.
So on Slack, we just mentioned that earlier. I might be jumping around a bit, but so one thing that recently we've both been online at kind of midnight or nearly midnight and stuff. And so I quite often write things in Slack. The reason I like Slack is because it's I don't know, it's just more instant and it's it's less kind of considered. But I don't expect an immediate response. But I've noticed that you quite often, like out of the three of us, if I put something in the founders room, it's normally you who comes back within about 5 minutes.
So there is a tactic around this. So I'm not going to be able to credit the person because I cannot remember, but it's sort of to do with that kind of inbox management. But you could just call it task management. So the way anything I read, right, the first thing you have to either accept or agree on is this principle, that if I tell you a piece of information, even if I say, David, I'm going to tell you something, but I don't want you to worry about it for another week, right? It's actually very unfair of me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put something in your brain, and I know you're not going to be able to let it go easily, right? It's going to stay in your brain. You're going to solve that problem 3 times before next week when you actually get to solve it, right? Because your brain's going to chew on it, right? Probably. So the best thing to do is you've got to think of it like a temporary memory space, which I think it literally is. You've got to keep clearing that out. So if you read something and it's FYI, get rid of it. If you read something and it's irrelevant, delete it or just push it to that side. If you read something and you would expect to respond, just respond. Or what will happen is you'll think about your response and go, well, I'll respond tomorrow, but you'll start thinking about the response. And what you'll do is, in effect, have you ever had that thing where you've almost written the email in the shower, on the loo or whatever, but you haven't actually written it. You may as well just get the phone out on the loo and write it. And it's getting a bit personal, but I think a lot of people do. And you're better because then it's gone, it's cleared. You've responded, you've done it.
Well, in that case, it makes it sort of slightly unfair because the way I use Slack quite often is I'll be lying, I might be lying in bed and going, oh, I just thought of something. I'm just going to stick that out there so I don't forget, and I'll use Slack to do it. But then what happens is 5 minutes later, or in the morning when I look, you've answered it 5 minutes later, and it's like, I didn't mean you to sort of respond.
No. But actually, I'm not expecting your response back. I've just done. I'm selfish. I've done it for me.
Right. Okay.
I've done it so I can go to sleep nice and clear-headed.
But then is it a bit unfair for me to kind of just
no
brain dump stuff?
This is my coping mechanism, not yours. Okay, so no, I don't see that at all. I think that what I've done is be pretty efficient. But to be honest, the main thing is I've cleared my mental space. That's my primary driver. Think of selfish man. So yeah, no, I've got no issue with that. But I do truly see that, my job is to serve the most important people in our business lives, which is you guys, our team, and our customers, and our best partners.
Yeah. Well, I had a sort of an interesting thought, which I'm not sure if it's bullshit or not. It probably is. It is kind of bullshit, but it's also it makes you think. So I think one of the challenges that we have as all of us as entrepreneurs is, and actually you alluded to this yesterday, we have a temptation to be attracted by shiny things all the time. And that's kind of what's made us entrepreneurs in the first place. It's kind of that curiosity. And
your strength is also your weakness.
Yeah. And when you first start, it's not so bad, but as you get bigger, you kind of feel that you need to spend time in the right way, because you could literally spend every day just doing admin. Absolutely, completely easily. Yeah. And I was thinking, actually, I think part of the reason for that is that entrepreneurs undervalue their time. And I was thinking, that kind of thing that we all get, which is, hey, can I just grab 15 minutes of your time? Can we just jump on a call?
I say no to like 98% of your meeting requests.
But or can I just grab a coffee? And I was thinking, okay. Nope. I was thinking, like, this is a sort of an experiment. It'd be interesting what you think about this. I think it's probably bullshit, but it's got some legs to it. So quite often the way you value your time is to think, how much am I paid? And roughly, there's a sort of sense of that. You might go, how much am I paid? I'll kind of work that, but I kind of know roughly how much I'm paid an hour, what would seem reasonable. But if you think about, as an entrepreneur, you're creating value. So let's say in a typical SaaS company, I'm being kind of broad brush here, but let's say your valuation is 10 times your ARR, right? So, and you're doing $1 million in annual recurring revenue. So your company value is $10 million. And let's say there's 2 founders, and in the next year you double to $2 million. So in theory, the effect of you two, one way or another, indirectly or directly, you've created $10 million of value for the business, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I slightly disagree, but yeah.
So then you work back from that. Okay, so it's $5 million each. I mean, whether you can say, well, it wasn't all me, it was the people that we hired and all that kind of stuff. But broadly speaking, there was at the beginning of the year, it was worth 10 million. At the end of the year, through your direction and all the rest of it, it's now worth 20 million. So if you work back and say, okay, well, I kind of did the math. It's roughly, basically, if you then say, well, we are each creating $5 million in value, that 15-minute coffee is worth about $600. And when you start thinking about that, I mean, obviously not every second of your day is creating that value, but when you start thinking about your time in those terms, you think, well, actually, it really is beholden on me to kind of think about the time in the most valuable way it is to the company. Like, how is my time actually moving the needle? Or am I just doing admin? Or am I just doing shiny things? Or, that kind of stuff?
That I agree on. I would, this is going to sound contradictory here. I would be cautious of over-optimizing your time, right? Because the bits that don't sit with me on what you were explaining there is, one, I think a lot of that value was derived from actions taken in the past that you were paying forward. So like good habits, good processes that may have been even good customers that you started talking to 3 years ago. So I don't think that was really your point. So that's maybe a bit of a moot thing. Yeah. But I do believe in the process and art, as I did yesterday on our All Hands, of continuous improvement, of just making things slightly better and feeling the impact as you go. But I do believe, you do have to think about how impactful you can use your time. But the problem I would see with that, if you took it too far, is that you would then only use your time on sort of provable impact points. And you would not allow for the beauty of the world of serendipity, of like, I'm going to go to a meeting which may come to nothing, but you never know. Now, the thing is, as I just said, I do turn down 8% of meetings because I can see just in the request that this is just a sales spam. But if it's someone who's maybe being introduced by someone I know and just saying, look, there's no obvious necessary reason right now, but I think you two could connect and something interesting could happen there, I will take that meeting. And I don't really care about the $600, whatever it might be, because, and a lot of it will come to nothing. But I think you do have to allow for randomness and serendipity. For your good luck happens to people who are open, right? Not closed.
Yeah.
So if you want nice things to happen, you have to allow the world to look at you and go, that's someone who's open to receiving this chance.
Yeah.
If you are too ruthless with optimization, then you're effectively closed.
I think probably the way it manifests itself, especially when entrepreneurs first start, is that sense of this task, could I do it? I could probably do it myself quicker, and it would cost half as much as paying someone to come in and do it for me. And then, I know it's different from what you just said, but it is that kind of balance of, and you were saying, well, look, I've got all the time in the world, but what I haven't got is all the money in the world. But in actual fact, I think the opposite is kind of true. Like, time is the most finite thing you've got. You can't redo your week if you fucked it up.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting thing. I think as entrepreneurs, we generally tend to undervalue our time, and that means we end up doing things that we really probably shouldn't be doing. We should get other people to do it.
I was just looking at my notes. I mean, we riff on that a bit longer, but I had some other tips.
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah, it was a bit of a kind of going off on a tangent there, but
no. I mean, to be honest, it's probably more interesting than what I'm about to say. But if people like the actionable content,
I think
so. One of my friends, Matt Bacon, he listens to the podcast. Hi, Matt. He's a lovely guy. I've known him since I was 12 years old. He rang me. We don't often. I don't hardly ever call anymore.
He's in America.
He's in New York. Yeah. I think he rang me because he was over visiting. We were supposed to meet up, and he gave me a call or something. Anyway, I wasn't available at the time, and I just said nah. No, I didn't say that. I wasn't around, and it went to my voicemail. There's something I changed a couple of years ago. I don't know if I even told you this. So I changed my voicemail message to say, "Hi, I don't use voicemail. There's no point leaving me a message. Text me or email me. Thanks, bye." And you know what? I just removed a channel. I went, you know what? I am so contactable. You can find me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on email. To a degree on the phone, although I try to not answer it directly because it's sort of spam. If you're internal, Slack. Even if you're a customer, sometimes Slack too. For the big customers, we have Slack channels with them. I am you can reach me easily.
Yeah.
I just don't like voicemail because it's a pain to organize. It's not something I can easily use my little systems on. So I just told the world, I don't do voicemail. Sorry about that. You could leave a message. I'll never listen to it. Sorry. And you know what? It's worked really well. It's just removing an unnecessary channel. And so another tip would be find the channels you like and then just remove other ones because you're available enough.
Yeah.
And you should be able to dictate a bit your criteria for chatting to you or connecting with you.
Well, I mean, I've done that on Cogent, so our older company.
Much to the annoyance of our accountant.
Yeah. So basically, what I've found is that I just don't. So Cogent is our former company, but it still exists, and it's more of a holding company for our other interests. And what I was finding. I was getting a lot of spam still. I tried to unsubscribe from loads of things, and I just thought this is a waste of time. Again, but occasionally people do write and do need to get a response.
It's still a living company. It still has stuff to do.
And your point earlier, people expect a response within a day, or maybe the next day is okay. So I just put an out of office message permanently, which just says, I'm going to check my emails once a week.
I'm kind of. If I was to rate it as the pro, I would give you a 50-50 on that one. I think it's fine because you're managing expectations. But I think, for certain people like Kim, that is probably quite annoying because she's like, well, what point in the next week is he going to do this? And it is holding me up. So I've got an alternative hack for this, which I did at Christmas. And it took me about the best part of a day and a half, but I got there in the end. So I am sure, like you, and probably like many other entrepreneurs or owners, listening, your device that you use for work, that device has probably been with you a while. You probably have loads of stuff on there, personal. It's effectively it's your computer.
Yeah.
Right. Now, because we were going through SOC 2, which we got, so well done, Type 1, nice one team, and that's bloody hard. One of the things that when we were doing the compliance was I was having conflicts with some of the software that we needed to install for security.
Yeah,
it was conflicting with other stuff and basically blowing the whole thing up. The machine was a bit old. So I thought, look, one, I need to show an example of best practice and exemplary-ish as far as I can behavior. So I'm going to get a new laptop. And that new laptop is going to be ScreenCloud only. I'm not going to ever even log in to any personal email, Cogent email. I'm not going to have a personal file. I'm not going to even have Facebook, no, that doesn't log in. LinkedIn, yeah, but and Twitter maybe, but actually probably not. And literally, it's going to just have my password manager, which is just ScreenCloud. So I wouldn't even know how to log into some of my other stuff. And the only email there, Slack, only with channels which relate to ScreenCloud. It's like a pure ScreenCloud machine, as if you were a new employee starting and just using a laptop for that. That's been phenomenal. And then the other laptop, the old one, what I did is then remove everything to do with ScreenCloud, partly for security, partly just to make the separation complete. So I'm never tempted to like dive in. So I now have 2 laptops in my life, which is a tad odd when you're going through airport security. If you're going away, I'd take both. But if I was going for just overnight, I wouldn't take the personal one. And right now, all the, hey, can you cover this body pump thing or whatever, like all that stuff would come into my normal life. That's just filtering through to that other laptop, and I'm going to deal with it tonight in the same way that I deal with other stuff. When I'm here, you know what? I sometimes forget about anything else in my life because I don't see it. That's been so good. Like I'm only 3 weeks in, but I'm radically more efficient as a result of it. And I kind of think that that's a version of what you've done, but just another version. Yeah. And maybe it's not better. I don't know. It feels cleaner to me, but
yeah, I mean, I'm quite. It is cleaner, but I find it very easy not to look at email because I fucking hate it.
Yeah, well, I think you have a dysfunctional relationship with email that you need to address in your own time.
I need to go for counselling. I was hoping this would be a bit of a counselling session. But I think I'm getting there.
I think you just need to like whoosha this stuff and go. It's okay. Maybe it's a common method of communication. People don't hate you by sending you an email. It's not.
Maybe it's that. Is it aversion therapy where you I don't know. You basically get exposed to things that you hate, and then eventually, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know.
That sounds pretty horrible.
Yeah, so like to counteract people who've got fear of heights, they basically
force them to go up.
Yeah, but they kind of introduce it over a period of time.
Okay.
And eventually, like people hate spiders. Like here's a spider. And
is that a little bit like chucking a child into a swimming pool and expecting them to not drown?
Yeah, I think maybe. I don't know.
Maybe not as horrible. I mean, look, who am I to say? I'm certainly no professional.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like,
I think it's great though. It's interesting. I never thought about having 2 laptops before.
Yeah. Look, it's not as weird as it sounds.
For me, that makes it kind of more stressful. It's like, oh my god, now I've got twice. Before I could have hide something, and now
no, you're compartmentalized. Right. If there's one thing take away from this is you only have a limited resource in the front of your brain, and it's so cluttered. There's so much stuff, and because you're across so many things, and we have so many worries and fears and this and that, and like. This is precious. You don't have, like, your brain's not going to get any bigger. It's probably going to get smaller, sadly, as we get older. Although you're not drinking anymore, so that's probably going to help.
But I thought you were on Dry January as well.
Yeah, I am, yeah. That's why I'm so sharp and lucid today.
Yeah.
I'm quite enjoying it, actually.
I think I'm on day 85 or something.
See, I'm not going to go quite to that extent, but I must admit, I am quite enjoying I was thinking about this the other day because Jane posted, Dave's wife posted, she's on 100 days and you're on 80 odd.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people this is becoming a bit of an on-trend thing. I mean, in San Francisco, it's almost like booze, go away. But
Jürgen doesn't drink.
He doesn't.
No,
he's very good too. Okay. Well, I mean, putting poison in your head, it's going to be bad for your mood, bad for your body, and all this sort of stuff. That said, fine French red wine is incredibly gorgeous, and I'm never giving that up.
Well, and I really like whiskey as well. So
and a really nice whiskey occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally, not every night. Yeah, I definitely don't want to be someone who never ever drinks again, but I have really enjoyed it. Just like last night, we went out for dinner and then we drove back. And we're like, God, that's great. We didn't have to get a cab. And
yeah, well, these are all great things. But I mean, if we actually do go and make loads of money in the future, and then I cannot afford really exceptionally good wine because I've decided I'll never drink again, that would be sad for me. But that said, there's different things. So I mean, Dry Jan's always a good little reset. It's not bad. I mean, to be honest. The only time I've ever actually really even missed it is usually the weekend, like a Friday night or Saturday.
Yeah.
Like that's where it just feels like, especially if you're actually in a pub.
It was quite hard when we did ScreenCloud together in Thailand. And
See, I probably wouldn't push myself through that.
Yeah. Actually, it was fine. Once
yeah, well, you certainly saved yourself a few Nurofen.
That's true.
But I mean, all of this is like a bit like body hacking, right? It's life hacking. We're optimizing away. people have like, I teach Group X, right? And a lot of people in Group X, they're not fitness junkies, right? They're not there every day. Like those people, you don't have to worry about them. They're so into it that they're going to hit their goals and exceed them. The reality is, like, we're in January, got like all the classes are full. A lot of people new, a lot of people with these lofty goals, which they're just not going to be able to sustain or do it. And one of the things I've been thinking about, and I'm saying actually to people, is like, forgive yourself a little bit. Okay. Because the thing is, when you come off a lofty, a really impossible goal, like inbox 0, like never drinking again or whatever it might be, the moment you crack, you're going to be so disappointed in yourself that actually all the good work that you did getting to that point where you then sort of were a bit fallible could be completely unraveled at that point. And this is a critical moment that failure is more important than micro success because it's how you respond to that failure. Are you going to beat yourself up and then go down that negative hole? Or are you going to go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm a human being. It went a bit wrong. You know what? I'm going to reset as of then, and we'll go back and we'll start building it up again. And it's that kind of, I think that just applies to almost everything the more I think about it. It's about that continuous movement and process. And then a few steps back sometimes. You get injured. You have a cheat day. Hey, oh God, look at that. I've got 3 birthdays coming up.
Your inbox slightly scrolls.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I'm hypocritical on a lot of this stuff. Like every human, I'm a hypocrite. Yeah. I'm contradictory. Sometimes I say something and then say something else and it doesn't quite make sense. Hello, human being, being a human. I don't know. What's been so good about the teaching stuff is it's forcing me to look at other people fail and to try and help them through it. And I think quite often that ends up helping you because even though you're, again, as I said, it's selfish. Like, if I'm giving advice, but I'm giving advice about something that makes me feel better. So who's really winning? I don't know. But I just trying to get more into that because I think ultimately the founder guilt is just massive. This, oh my God, I could have done that, but I could have been doing more outreach emails to our customers. Like there's always more you could do. There's always better. And it's crappy, like success porn up at 5 doing this and that. Fuck off. Like do what works for you. Yeah. If it's stressing you out, change it. If actually you've got this far in your life with horrific email management, so why not carry on?
I do think my life would be improved if I could do it. So I'm going to renew.
But if you don't care enough, don't bother. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not going to judge you. A little bit. I'm going to judge you a tiny bit.
Yeah. There's a reason why I haven't done it, but actually, I do. I kind of in my I'm about to sort of relocate to LA. I've been out there quite a lot recently. California, and you kind of think, right, new place, new me. I'm gonna be inbox 0. I'm gonna be so.
When you inevitably fail, just remember my words.
There's an element of that. I think I can reinvent myself. I can be Mark McDermott.
No one wants that. There's room enough for one
OCD founder. Actually, it's probably not a bad thing that we're all three
yin yang. What was it? What would we begin with? Those 2 characters. Scribble and nibble.
Fleabag and Spiffy.
Yes, Fleabag and Spiffy.
Oh, great. Yeah. I can't even remember the theme tune, but I won't do it. But cool.
All right.
Okay. Well,
is that enough advice? There you go. Go forth and be amazing.
There that I'm definitely going to. I'm definitely going to
split the laptop thing. Trust me, that has been one of the best things. Split it out. Yeah. Compartmentalize, my friend.
Your life. There's something in it, definitely.
Woosha.
Cool. All right. Well. Hopefully that was good. I can say a lot of this is just about therapy for us. And if you're listening to us doing that, then and it helps you or it amuses you, then all the better for it.
Could be another sideline business available for counselling and therapy sessions.
Cool. All right. Until next time.
Bye.